Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of Wrestle Talk Show. I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, here to bring you the latest and greatest in professional wrestling news, bits, rumors, anything and everything wrestling. We cover it. You can visit this channel or our archive channel, youtube.com/CWE Company, where everything outside of the relaunch shows will be on this channel, and we will archive. We will use it as the old site as a video library due to login problems. This will be the new site, and everything else will be archived at youtube.com/CWE Company. Again, I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman. Feel free to check out anything and everything Wrestle Talk Show at facebook.com/Wrestle Talk Show or WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. There, we're constantly updating the latest and greatest professional wrestling news, independent wrestling, where wrestling will be in your area. We're taking your email requests at CWEWrestlingENTINC@gmail.com. That's the abbreviations for Entertainment Incorporated. CWEWrestlingENTINC@gmail.com. So, let's get into it. On your wrestling news, first and foremost, backstage news on why Spike TV doesn't wish to renew Impact Wrestling. Multiple sources report to the Wrestling Observer, which is also another website to check out, that and our friends at the PWTorch.com, James Caldwell and Wade Keller, do a great job with their podcast and their news reporting. Over 25 years of experience. Check them out, pwtorch.com, on iTunes, on the internet. They're everywhere, guys.
Hello.
Hey, first and foremost, backstage news on why Spike doesn't want to renew Impact Wrestling. Multiple sources, again, report to the Wrestling Observer that there are two key reasons Spike doesn't wish to renew. First, they didn't believe that the program was cost effective for what they paid for it, and the fact they were outright lied to about Vince Russo's status with the company. TNA has already denied Russo working for them, and when Russo meant to email TNA employees but accidentally emailed Mike Johnson of PW Insider, TNA went into panic mode because Spike had made it clear they didn't want Russo involved. Pro Wrestling Insider also reported earlier yesterday that for another time, Russo has denied his involvement with the company, but we believe that that's strictly because they were caught. Backstage news on when Sting will meet McMahon. The latest word on Sting and the WWE is that they are hopeful to get a talent contract signed before SummerSlam. Sting is coming to Los Angeles for SummerSlam weekend, but is not currently scheduled for the show itself. Sting currently has deals with Mattel and 2K Sports, but not a wrestling deal with WWE. Talk of Sting signing with WWE has become a running joke among fans and wrestlers because the two sides are basically in the same spot they were in when talks first started getting serious in January. Sting has had talks with Vince McMahon before, but never met him in person. Their first meeting will likely come during SummerSlam weekend. Fallout with TNA, it doesn't stop them from announcing the signing of another talent and when he will debut. TNA Wrestling signs American War hero Chris Menendez to a multi-year agreement. TNA Wrestling is happy to announce the signing of a true American hero. Chris Melendez is thank you, brother, former Army sergeant who served his country in Afghanistan and was awarded the Purple Heart. Because of injuries suffered in combat, the brave soldier returned home a single-leg amputee. Menendez, a member of the Wounded Warrior Project, had another dream to realize when he returned home. He dreamed of becoming a pro wrestler. Chris's remarkable story begins as a kid growing up in Spanish Harlem. His grandmother introduced him to professional wrestling at a young age, and ever since he has been hooked. We here at Wrestle Talk Show wish him nothing but the best. Like we said yesterday, we wish the talent nothing but the best. And the dreaded renewal of WWE Network is just around the corner. PAA researcher Bradley Safalo says that anything below 900,000 subscribers is a negative. He has predicted a projection of 750 to 850,000 subscribers. He is also projecting just 800 on December 31st for the end of the year. Sarfalo projects that eventually WWE will reach 4 to 5 million subscribers, but considering they said 1 million, by the time the renewal came around and they're still not here, like the experts say and like we say, anything below, I don't know how I feel about that. Anything below 900,000 would be a negative. I don't necessarily agree with that because, like we were saying yesterday about kinks with the network and whatnot, there were people that as soon as it came out, they had it. You weren't going to stop those people. And like we said before, the people that you gained from the start till now are enjoying, even if they're not enjoying the whole network, $10 for a pay-per-view alone sells the network itself. But now what they need to do is they've already gotten those people that are doing it for cost-effective measures, doing it because they want to get closer to the brand and their favorite wrestlers. But now you need to engage the people that have seen all this, what's the best way to put this? Have seen everything you have to offer but still haven't signed yet. What are you going to do for them? What is their reason for joining? Is it the $10 pay-per-views? Is it the WCW, WWE Monday Night Wars that they want to go back and watch? A lot of it, it's kind of open-ended because there's something in there for everyone. And what we'll get into now is, we'll actually make that the debate topic. Email your questions, comments, concerns to CWE Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated, ENTINC@gmail.com. CWE Wrestling ENTINC@gmail.com. And what do you think was the defining moment where TNA was done with Spike TV? We've said here countless times that the company kind of did it to themselves. When they launched in 2001, they were a stable secondary, still below WWE's radar because they're a publicly traded company, etc., etc. But hell, AJ Styles alone shows you that they were doing the right thing. They were a wrestling promotion that created wrestlers. And they only have themselves to thank for the success outside of TNA for AJ Styles. And AJ Styles is just a phenomenal wrestler. But like we said yesterday, it's pretty sad when these wrestlers are coming out and saying that going back to the independent scene, AJ Styles currently doing projects for New Japan, the Bullet Club, and everything else. That he's making more with the independents than he would have with TNA. And what's that saying that says that for pennies on the dollar, TNA is trying to get talent? There was an article yesterday through WrestlingInc.com that why not having Hulk Hogan is hurting TNA, and just using the headline alone, we don't necessarily agree with that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out, or to break this down. TNA needed to stay in the business of creating its own talent, and instead, once they got full of themselves, you could say over the last couple of years, we've seen them generating lower numbers between a 0.8 and a 1.0 week to week with Spike TV. And we've also commented that in the last 3 months, the last 90 days, Spike TV, that is usually a shoe-in automatic renewal for Impact Wrestling, has noted the business conduct of TNA Wrestling as a deciding factor. And last but not least, the fact that no one wants to destroy professional wrestling involved in anything wrestling, having Vince Russo off the books, especially having him off the books after Spike made it clear they didn't want him involved, is something TNA will realize the repercussions for. I don't like Vince Russo. I think it's asinine, as Jason Powell said on Tuesday's PW Torch livecast. He doesn't know enough about storytelling. He doesn't know enough about writing. And he openly criticizes on his websites, openly criticizes and reviews TNA impacts that he was involved in creating, but is giving you this third-party review like he would have done it differently, even though he's the one that created that particular week's product. And like we said about TNA, just to kind of sum it all up and put it in a nice little basket for you, even if they start getting back on track of creating the wrestlers for tomorrow's wrestling, so to speak, it does not take away from their key problem, which is their lack of a creative department, or that they've let the creative department itself get lax. Either way, either excuse doesn't change the fact that they need to hone that, where you have open-ended storylines and storylines that never come to fruition, or within 2 episodes of Impact get debuted and finished up, where they could have made a story for months. You watch them literally destroy storylines. And we discussed yesterday, is it the fact that they don't have the creative writers aren't creative at all, they don't know anything about wrestling, or have they seen, like everyone else on the outside, what the product is doing internally and aren't inspired to do anything except go through the motions? And we will just have to see, as we said yesterday, TNA having some of its best shows since the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. And we said here yesterday, and will continue to say, that even if TNA does fall, we hope that some of the talent now can, because if you remember, there isn't many places they can go. When the ECW, WCW buyout occurred, WWE tried to bring on most of both rosters, filtered through them, and within a couple months' time, you had the WWE alumni, so to speak, and the people they were going to keep. I think we all remember Spike Dudley being around for a while and having a great run with the Dudley Boys and all of that. But our main concern is what happens in any business is they've reached in terms of sports entertainment, how many, even if TNA does dissolve, how many realistically, talent-wise, will WWE agree to take on? Prince Devitt has already been brought in under a different name. Kevin Steen has already been brought in under a different name through NXT. How many more can they bring on? And you could actually say, well, Josh, they'll bring them all on and filter them through the NXT process, and maybe that's what they'll do. But do you honestly see, after trying this once already, I don't honestly see them saying, okay, everyone in TNA is going to get a reset, and you're going to get a shot at a position if you can learn the WWE way of doing things, and that entails going through NXT. I think it'll be if it does happen, I think that's exactly how they'll do it. They'll filter them out through the NXT process. As we all know, some of them shouldn't even be in wrestling, TNA in general. But you cannot deny that the greater majority has wrestling talent. And I don't think to go from WWE, who has national exposure through television, TNA, who has national exposure through Spike, or worldwide exposure, however you want to realize it, I think it would be a real kick in the teeth, so to speak, and a kick to the pride of some of these wrestlers if they go from being on TV to working in the independents, as Matt Morgan said over the last couple months via his Twitter and public comments. Spike TV was never good at promoting the product, even when it was on outside of the night it was on or the hour leading into Impact. Matt Morgan has vocally complained that the advertising was nothing compared to that of other programs. But like it was said before on the PW Torch Livecast, and while they made a good point, USA Network does the same thing. It doesn't really hype WWE, but it knows that it uses WWE for that average rating that they love so much that the network has as a whole. Now, if they won't go out of their way to promote wrestling, but as the co-host said yesterday, if you were to take World Wrestling Entertainment away from USA Network, their average rating for the network itself, you would see drop dramatically. And the question has come up, is Vince McMahon wearing too many hats? That's to say that we were led to believe years ago that Triple H was taking over as Chief Operating Officer, and Vince was, to the best of our knowledge, going to go behind the scenes back to creative, where he wouldn't be out there as much, but he would still have a deciding factor on what was produced in his company. And currently he's contributing to their creative department, and he'll be another year older this year. A lot of people are worried about that, and if he's wearing too many hats. And we've said this since Triple H took the role of Chief Operating Officer, and then it seemed like a couple months down the road wanted his dream match with The Undertaker. Triple H needs to pick a position. Is he going to, and we've already broke it down to the point where we've said Triple H would be a wrestling treat in a pay-per-view if it didn't feel like or seem like kind of the John Cena effect, that he's involved in every match. You can't get through a championship match lately without going through him. Now, he needs to decide, and Triple H is known for burying talent before they've had a chance to hit their stride. He needs to decide, am I going to be the Chief Operating Officer on TV and make a spectacle out of it where I'm the only focus and forget about the wrestler, because as I talk about them, the more I bury them? Or am I going to bring on a general manager so we have our dramatic effect, and am I behind the scenes going to become an executive officer? And this is where we've said it would not hurt even his dream match months after taking the executive role with The Undertaker. We said that we wouldn't mind it as long as it was worth pay-per-view time, which I don't think that WrestleMania was, as Undertaker was getting older and Triple H can still cut promos and perform. That's obvious, but do we want that? It's like seeing Randy Orton and John Cena again. How many times can you do it before it doesn't mean anything when the fans know that John Cena is going to win? And that kind of brings it back to the debate we brought up, the topic we brought up yesterday, where yes, with Daniel Bryan's injuries, John Cena was the safer bet for the company. But with everything you have in NXT and everything you have in your locker rooms, is it fair to say he's our plan B and not mold a Roman Reigns into that position? Now, there are rumors, and our hopes are that Roman Reigns sees his championship bout at SummerSlam kind of taken away when Cena versus Lesnar has already been announced for the WWE title at SummerSlam. But kind of like what we, not kind of, Exactly what we criticize TNA for doing, WWE needs to do as well. It's great that you're commingled in every aspect of entertainment, but remember where you came from. You're a sports entertainment professional wrestling company, and you need to start creating the wrestling future of tomorrow. Everybody says, well, I hate John Cena, da, 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 da. The problem with that is John Cena, until they mold someone to take, it's the same thing with his heel turn. Until they mold someone or get them ready, whatever adjective you want to use, until they get someone ready to take the place of John Cena, that's a formidable opponent, they will always stick with John Cena because he's like the Rey Mysterio. He's great with the kids. He's great for Make-A-Wish. He's great for the business in general when it comes to promoting things that are not wrestling, but that WWE has its hand in. He sells merchandise, he sells tickets, and as long as he's doing that, you're never going to see John Cena turn, even though he's commented late last week that being a heel would be easier. The expectations for him to be perfect follow him both in and out of the ring. You need to set someone up to take his place so that when John Cena turns, there is someone else who can be the flagship of World Wrestling Entertainment. And until that happens, you won't see a heel turn, and you won't see anyone else but the safest Plan B option, which is John Cena. I even argued that at WWE Battleground, Kane could have held it, because my biggest argument with Kane is he's a great role-playing character. Over the years, he's proven it. He's been in several successful storylines with his brother, The Undertaker. But my main thing as a fan is Kane's only title run came 10 years ago for less than 8 hours following a pay-per-view. He was defeated by Stone Cold Steve Austin the very next night on Raw. Now, maybe it wouldn't attract a lot of heat, but in my opinion, when you have the kind of, there's no depth to the WWE talent roster because they've made it that way. They've made your Sheamuses, your Del Rios, your Usos, which, by the way, at WWE Battleground had a great championship title defense over an hour-long match. I encourage you to go back to and watch that WWE Battleground pay-per-view. First match, what was it, first or second match of the night. They really need to, especially with summer coming up and SummerSlam and the Rumble and all that, and the pay-per-views that form WrestleMania slowly making their way to fruition, they need to start building talent, because they're going to, a lot of people over the last couple months have called it a holding pattern, what they're doing, and it's not really needed, because with NXT alone, now I'm not saying like anybody can dream to become a professional wrestler. Some of us have it, some of us don't. But they've got so much talent, almost they got more than they know what to do with, because they want all of their talent first. They want to own the names, then they want them to learn the WWE style. And there's been a filtering process where there are people that have graduated it and are ready to be used, but is WWE ready to pull the trigger on those talents? And they could have 10, 15 guys in the back that are probably going raw to raw with them and saying, yeah, I'm collecting a paycheck, but and I'm working a couple dark matches here and there, but when am I actually going to get called up? And that's where we think what's best for business is to start molding these wrestlers of today into the superstars you're going to need tomorrow. Because as John Cena gets older, we saw Stone Cold lead the business, we've seen The Rock lead the business, We've seen CM Punk recently leave the business, making a ton of money in the year before, and saying my health is more important than this business. What, more or less, what good is all this money if you're not going to be able to enjoy it? And we always cite the incident that happened with former WWE wrestler Draws. Like football, you don't know when your time is going to be up. John Cena could get injured next Monday, and it could be over. And then the question comes up right back to square one. Who do they replace it with? And when it comes to, and I noticed this on the Raw right after Battleground, I was watching it last night, just for some notes and some discussion topics, is that's where your, not your reset, but your stories for the next pay-per-view start to get built. As soon as JBL mentioned Zack Ryder being a potential winner when Triple H offered the entire locker room the challenge, you knew it wasn't going to happen. But Zack Ryder is the ideal example of what I'm trying to say. Zack Ryder is a jobber right now. He constantly has to worry when the cuts come around, when the most recent cuts came around. He was on the chopping block, but he's somebody that, do something with him before the fans get tired of seeing him, because they know you're not going to do anything with him. And in that, I mean, they know, they're starting to realize right now that when wrestlers like Zack Ryder come out, he's there to hype the match and probably get his opponent over, and he'll end up losing. But Zack Ryder is the kind of young talent that you want to hone and potentially be the replacement for who is now an A-plus player now, maybe 6 months to a year down the road. Zack Ryder could be a formidable WWE Championship match contender. But you'll never know, because when you job him out and make him look silly, your fans are, like I said, before we connect the dots, and we've suspended our disbelief every Monday and Friday when we watch wrestling, we've suspended our disbelief. But eventually characters like Zack Ryder, you start to get that feeling that, yeah, it's a Zack Ryder match, but Zack Ryder's not going to win. And that's what just one example, what makes you turn the channel for the 5-10 minutes, because you know you're not going to miss anything. His matches become placeholder matches in a 3-hour Raw, and which I've always said, they've spent so much money, and you come to see that the extra hour actually compensates their ad space time, but they're in the wrestling entertainment business. That third hour, the first 2 hours of wrestling, and dare say hour, 2.5 hours, should be heavily promoted for used for wrestling. Wrestling and wrestling promos. I don't want to see a 20-minute Stephanie McMahon and Triple H promo. I'd much rather see a successful Dean Ambrose promo, a successful Dean Ambrose match. We believe he's the up and rising star out of the Shield breakup, and this whole Seth Rollins feud is just making him look that much better. But where WWE always gets ahead of themselves is kind of what I believe it was Greg Park said. Now's the like we've said, now's the time where WWE should man up, accept the fact that as they transition these wrestlers, they're going to take a hit in ratings, but that they're show the fans and the industry that you're creating the future of wrestling, instead of this holding pattern that until Daniel Bryan gets back, John Cena can be our retaining champion for months to come. I don't want to see a Randy Orton versus John Cena down the road. I think you can do the same thing that you did with Daniel Bryan with another wrestler. Their company, again, just has to get behind them. If you're a professional wrestler and your promotion doesn't have any faith in you, what the hell are you doing with that promotion? and getting back onto the swing of things, TNA not having Hulkamania, TNA could be its own entity without Sting and Hulk Hogan. Yes, they were reasons to watch the product, but TNA at one point had its own individuality, where over the last couple of years they went from being individuals to photostatic copies of their competition, and that's a negative too. So the key factor is John Cena works for the time being, and he's the safest bet. And if you're WWE, like Jim Valley said for PW Torch contributor, when you're selling tickets and merch and dabbling in everything entertainment that John Cena does for WWE, you're not going to soon see John Cena not be a front runner in the company. You have to first lay the groundwork for the replacement, John Cena's replacement, if you will, to step up to the plate, and you have to hope it takes with the fans. Because if you do all this work and the fans don't take to it, then it's a botch, and you have to start all over again, hoping for the same end result. But we'll have more news on TNA, Sting, and the WWE Network as their projections come out later today / tomorrow. But for now, again, visit us on our archive channel, youtube.com/CWE Company. This channel, remember, to facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow, facebook.com/CWE Company. Email your questions, comments, concerns, a topic you'd like to bring up, anything and everything wrestling. Email to cwewrestlingentInc@gmail.com. Visit the links on our YouTube channel. Support us. We have a booster campaign. $15 t-shirt helps you support independent wrestling across in Continental Wrestling Entertainment, along with our brother and sister promotions, and everywhere we operate. Again, I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, saying join us next time, and thank you for watching.